Without wasting any further time on this, I hand over the session to Shri Rao. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I think it's a difficult post-lunch session, but we are running late, so we'll try to make it as brisk as possible. I am part of this panel discussion because I handle the National E-Governance Plan as a program management unit in the Department of IT. The National E-Governance Division also does a lot of support in framing policies, including the cyber security policies. In fact, my team of experts who work on cyber security, like Dr. Narang and his team, they're all present here today, and they know more about the subject than me. But what I want to talk about is the governance part of it. How do we ensure that cyber security is part of e-governance measures, e-governance initiatives of the government, both the government of India and the state governments? We have a lot of infrastructure, a lot of applications that are there in the e-governance domain, and we have realized that the measures regarding the cyber security in the e-governance domain have been piecemeal. If you take the state wide area networks or the state data centers or some of the applications, there is a cyber security component in it. And there are certain standards, there are certain guidelines, there are certain regulations. But I think they have not been handled coherently. I think there is no comprehensive view of how to handle cyber security in e-governance. And that is when we have come up with a cyber security cell within the National E-Governance Division. DIT has given us money in which we were asked to develop cyber security guidelines for the e-governance domain. And Dr. Narang and his team is working on that. We will shortly, maybe in about 2-3 months' time, we will come up with a guidebook kind of a checklist, a list of guidelines for people to easily understand and implement at the state level. Along with that comes the most important task of capacity building. I think if you build capacity, if you make people aware of what kind of how important cyber security is, then half your job is done. But today there is a lack of understanding. I think a lot of people don't know certain basic aspects, and I think we need to train right from the lowest level of a clerk to the leadership level. We need to talk about cyber security. And as part of capacity building efforts, we have a capacity building scheme, a specific scheme sanctioned by the government. We are introducing cyber security component in a major way. And once we have these guidelines and this guidebook ready, we are going to have a great fillip to these efforts, and we are hopeful that the capacity building will take off. NILIT is present here. NILIT is also partnering with us in these efforts. And I will not take much time of yours, and I'll invite Dr. Ashwini Sharma to talk about what NILIT is doing in this regard. Thank you.
Yeah, while Dr. Sharma is coming, I shall also be making a quick announcement that Shri PM Nair, IPS, Director General, National Disaster Response Force, shall be very quickly and very soon joining us on the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanta Ravji. Distinguished experts on the dais and august gathering over here from industry, media, academia, and government departments. See, it is a fact that we have been talking about e-governance, and the moment we say e-governance, there is an IT component built in that, because the e-governance starts with the small e. Of course, big governance, so major component is the governance part, but the beginning is with the IT component. And the moment we talk about IT, number of crimes which include with IT, which include with the media, starts coming to us. Now what is happening is, we have been conceiving the e-governance projects, the basic theme of which is to deliver the services at the doorstep of the citizens by using the ICT. Now once we are saying delivering of the services, it means we are trying to include citizens also as a part or as a stakeholder of the decision making or policy making or users. Now once we are talking about information dissemination, now what is happening is, until unless all stakeholders, which include citizens, the designer, the technocrats, the bureaucrats, the policy makers, they are being basically taught about what are the issues related with technology. I don't think we will be able to position to move further, because what is happening is, the moment we say crime, now if crime being done physically is totally different from a crime being done on a IT media or using the IT technology, because the moment we say physical crime, it is physically visible to us. But the crime which you are doing through IT media or through internet or through a electronics equipment or something, that is not visible to us. We get the end result only. So it is very important for us to take forward any vision or any plan which government is planning now in the interest of citizen, that we bring the awareness among the citizens about the cyber crimes, IT security and all these things. Similarly, it is very essential that those who are implementing the law, because what is happening, until unless those who are implementing the law, especially the judiciary and the police, who have to implement and follow the guidelines, they are aware that what are the laws, how a FIR can be registered against this case. If suppose somebody has gone for a hacking, what are the laws which will allow him to put somebody behind the bar, or what action is to be taken up. I don't think we will be in a position to move further by making a real effect or real impact of the policy which Government of India has planned it out. Because Government of India says that even in an organization which is dealing in IT, we need to have a Chief Information Security Officer, which means he is supposed to have a system which he can keep authenticated with the new trends. He can basically go through the system and can plan out that he plan out the trail audits on some periodic method. So looking to this, basically, since NILET is a DIT organization, we have been in the capacity building field for ICT. Now we have diversified, or rather we have taken a forward integration in the field of e-governance, and even in the field of, now we are planning basically for cyber crimes also. We have been thankful to DIT, Government of India, for giving us funds for number of projects which we have taken up, especially related with the setting up of forensic lab, which includes setting up a forensic lab in Jammu, Kashmir, Gorakhpur and Northeast. The basic purpose has been to ensure that whenever there is a manipulation in the data, we are able to compare it out and basically are able to give a result that how corruption has taken place, what was the source of corruption, and what were the agencies or activities or manpower involved in that. Now, with these words, basically I will close this thing because I have to rush to my office for the parliament session. Some question is there. But my colleagues, Mr. Shukla, who is the director in charge for Gorakhpur, and Mr. Tripathi, they will give you throw a light on what we have been doing in the forensic lab and how we are going for the capacity building of especially the police officers, the defense officers, because we have already conducted training for, I think, almost more than 500 government officers in Jammu, Kashmir and Gorakhpur. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. I have briefly touched upon the e-governance part of it, and Ashwini Sharma has talked about the capacity building part. The cyber security portion is left in the topic, which is handled by none other than Srinath, and he is an expert. He is into the thick of the cyber security laws and the guidelines that are being issued by DIT. I request Mr. Srinath to speak.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Kantarao. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having me here. It's my pleasure to talk to you. Afternoon audience is called thin client. Half the people disappear. Technology has made our life quite complicated. हम हंसना भूल गए हैं. One day, one person was interviewing me and he suddenly asked, Srinath ji, आपका कोई दुश्मन है? I was foxed. So, but for a moment I thought. I said, yes, मेरा एक दुश्मन है. Now he was foxed. He thought Srinath का कोई दुश्मन नहीं हो सकता. Then I told, he asked me, sir, कौन है वो? तो I told, Google मेरा दुश्मन. Google मेरा दुश्मन बन गया है. क्यों? Because my daughter, she is just under 18, she asks a question, even on cyber security. I am a cyber security professional. I take a minute or two to reply. She said, Papa, don't worry, Google hai na. So she said, Google has replaced me as a source of information. In fact, it could be the case with everybody else, isn't it? Google must have replaced you. We are nobody, we are nowhere there. Because I take a minute or two in replying, but Google replies in 0.03 seconds. Everything, whatever you want, everything it throws up. So my biggest challenge is, how do I make sure that I am relevant in my daughter's life? Otherwise, I am becoming irrelevant more and more. It's a big challenge. Some time back, my wife asked me, every week or 10 days you go out and speak, what is that you speak? It's a dangerous question coming from wife. I said, I speak on art of living. He said, art of living, are you crazy? I thought you are a security professional. I said, नहीं, I am a security professional, मैं धोखा नहीं दे रहा हूँ. But I indeed speak on art of living. This art of living is about the art of living with a problem that we have recently called cyber security. पहले नहीं था. Suddenly we have discovered that there is a problem that we have to deal with it. You know, it's a difficult thing that we have to deal. We have to. You know, there was a person, he goes to a palmist. He says, sir, थोड़ा देख के बताएंगे हमारा तकदीर में क्या लिखा है? That fellow says, till 40 you have terrible problems. After 40, you get used to it. That's what happens, isn't it? There is not a single moment in life where you are free of problems. Cyber security SABA, it's a small vertical in life. There is no escape in that. We are also, in my opinion, hanging on to the technology is like holding on to the handlebar of Mumbai local train. Handlebar pakad liya aapne. What options do you have? Nothing. You have to run at the speed of train and jump into the train. Otherwise, you will be dragged along the platform, you will get killed. Or you leave the handlebar, you will go under the wheels, then also you get killed. No options at all. You have to run. With technology, you have to run even if you want to stay where you are. That's the biggest challenge that we are trying to. Look at the problem with Department of IT. On one hand, we are feverishly pushing for e-governance and inclusive growth and IT for masses and so many things, making IT closer to your life. On the other hand, you can't expect Srinath to go around the country and spread horror stories about cybersecurity, isn't it? I'm not supposed to be scaring you of cybersecurity, but awareness can make a lot of difference, and that's what we are supposed to be doing. Otherwise, if I scare you, I lose my job. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. But what happens is, when technology, on one hand, it gives you the power of freedom. Dunya meri mutti mein. Aisa lagta hai. Lekin on the other hand, immediately it takes away the freedom. You don't know. You will never know that your freedom is lost. How much you have been attached to mobile, you will know yourself. You may forget your wallet, but you may not be able to forget your mobile phones, isn't it? Nowadays, losing a mobile phone is not a big problem, but losing the data within that is definitely is. It's a big problem. Now, similarly, if you know what exactly is an absolutely safe car, a safe car is one which does not move. A safe knife is one which does not cut. What is the use So what is a safe computer? Just unplug it and throw it out of the window. But that's not what we want. We want you to use it, isn't it? That's the difficulty. That's what we want you to. That's where we want you to be quite comfortable with what IT can do for you. I don't have to count for you what IT can do for you. But I can give you a simple moment. There was a person who was operating an ATM. And there was a curious passerby. And he goes to that person, I see you are operating this ATM with a lot of enthusiasm. How comfortable are you in using this ATM? He says, sir, I am a very small person. I have an account of 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees. And every time I may hardly draw 100 rupees or 200 rupees. He says, for this 100 rupees or 200 rupees, if I go to the bank counter, invariably I get a dirty look. He said, bloody hell, I cannot understand. Why should I get a dirty look for drawing my own money from my own account? Whereas look at this beautiful machine. It simply does not discriminate. Whether I am drawing 100 rupees or 10,000 rupees, it is not discriminating. I also follow the same procedure, he also follows the same procedure. अगर मुझे पैसा नहीं मिलता तो उसको भी पैसे नहीं मिलते हैं. Isn't it? So much beautiful. I want these type of things to be replicated in our life. So much has been done through technology and so much is being done also. Naturally, there is no way that we can reverse this process. What we say is, when we are dealing with cybersecurity, we are beset with lots of challenges, and some of the influencing factors, it's up on the screen, you don't have to, you can note down, and these are the types of concerns that we face. At individual levels, we have lots of concerns, organization level, lots of concerns. I don't intend to go through the laundry list of big concerns we have. So many things that we need to be simultaneously looking at. There was an MP who was speaking to me recently. He said, Srinath ji, आप वही जानते हैं जो दुनिया जानता है या कुछ और भी जानते हैं? सवाल तो बहुत गहरा है. Because he is asking very serious question. Naturally, I am a security professional and I represent a security agency. So I should be knowing more. If I know only as you know, naturally I cannot be protecting you, isn't it? I should be knowing much more. It's a difficult thing. See, there was a teacher who was asking a question to a student, a small student, a girl. She said, suppose I pay your father $1,000 and he's supposed to pay back $100 every month. After 5 months, how much still he owe? The girl is unfazed. She says $1,000. Teacher says, honey, you don't know anything about mathematics. The girl says, madam, I know everything about mathematics, but you don't know anything about my father. Isn't it? आप किसको पैसे दे रहे हैं? वो किसी को पैसे वापस देता ही नहीं है. Isn't it? Here, it is not necessary that you should know mathematics. You should know whom you are giving money. Isn't it? Security also, I should be knowing more than you. Then only I will be able to protect you. I can claim that I can protect you. Otherwise, forget it. Game is over. See, when we are working on cybersecurity, simultaneously we are working on several things. We are supposed to be, because we have no luxury of time that we can work sequentially. Simultaneously, we should be working. So we should be working in creating certain logics, creating certain reasonable grounds for actions and things like that. Hanging on to logic also is a very difficult thing, you know. Logic, sometimes it appears linear, afterwards पता नहीं कहाँ U-turn मार देता है. जिंदगी कुछ और से चलता है, isn't it? That was very difficult way a teacher learned. He is teaching a group of students and she says, suppose a group of 10 people finish a job in 10 days. How much time does a group of 20 people to finish the same job? One student gets up and says, sir, I have a problem with the problem itself. What's the problem? He says, I think the problem is stupid. Stupid? What do you mean? He says, a small student is telling the teacher that problem is stupid. He said, why? Because you are expecting me to say that a group of 20 people will be finishing the job in half the time. Nonsense. I will give you 1,000 people, finish it in 1 minute and show me. It doesn't work that way. And if you think that way it works, you have not seen our MCD men at work. Out of 5 people, 4 log BD pe rahe hain, 1 aadmi kaam kar raha hai. Isn't it? More people does not mean more work. More security does not mean more security measures. More security measures does not mean more security. So we have to be aware of. We are creating, when we are simultaneously working on many things. I'm telling you all these things in 10 minutes. I can only give you the signal of confidence. I can neither tell you about security, neither give you any feeling of all that goes on. It's a very intricate this thing. Possibly more intimate interaction could be required. This is what we are supposed to be doing as computer emergency response team. Again, I don't want to go into the laundry list. Whatever I'm speaking in the public domain, everything is available. Nothing is secret. You can also use it for whatever purpose you want. And these are the number of stakeholders. Sometimes secretary asks me, Srinath, can you briefly tell me in short summary, what's the problem? I said, sir, this is the problem. 5 years back when we were working, only DIT was working on security. Now to bahut log paida ho gaye. It does not mean that there is a discomfort in many people coming onto the thing. It does not simply, naturally does not mean. But naturally more people means there has to be more better coordination. So many other things are required. Of course, this is what we are trying to work. Cybersecurity architecture at the country level is precisely doing this one only. How to make sure all the stakeholders are able to work. And this is the collaboration efforts. In the sense, when I am saying on this platform that we are able to protect you and we are able to provide the emergency response, please don't believe that Srinath is saying entirely on its own off the hat. No, not at all. I have a battery of people and organizations who can help me whenever we require. So that's the confidence and that's the strength with which I am talking to you, that we can try to solve your problems. Definitely, we don't have the capability to solve all the problems, but definitely we can make a very honest attempt. And this is the force multiplier effect. In the sense, we work with so many people to get them. In fact, this is not to confuse you. This is only to tell you how confused we are. In the sense, we have to do so many things simultaneously, we have to get everybody together. So that's quite a complicated picture to get the force multiplier effect. And we conduct cybersecurity drills. Of course, I can't give you too much of details of these drills right now because there are, the paucity of time is there. This is the final cap. If somebody has done some work in securing their infrastructure, they can come to us, participate in our drills. It's pure fun and learning. At CERT, we don't work. It's all fun and learning only. Absolute fun and learning. We are all learning that way. In fact, I can guarantee you, I can tell you, most of the 50 people who we have been picking up from the market, none of them have left. Because such is the wonderful working possibility is there in terms of technology, in terms of the challenge that we have. And we have created an assurance ladder. Assurance ladder means you can try to pick up one by one, or you try to place yourself in low risk, medium risk, or high risk. You know, categorizing yourself as low risk itself is a big risk. Because if something happens, who is going to stick his neck out? It's very dangerous. And if to avoid that one, you want to categorize yourself as high risk, who is going to pay for it? Everything costs money. You cannot do that. So safe is medium risk, everything else you have to do. Low risk means awareness. Medium risk means awareness se kaam nahi chalega. Awareness and action also is needed. High risk means awareness, action and assurance. Low risk, awareness का मतलब क्या होता है? आज बगल वाले का घर में पानी नहीं आ रहा है. Awareness है. आपका कोई action नहीं है. You are safe, isn't it? कल झगड़ा कर रहा था, भुगतने दो उसको, isn't it? Now, medium risk का मतलब है अवेयरनेस एंड एक्शन. आज हमारे घर में भी पानी नहीं आ रहा है. अवेयरनेस से काम नहीं चलेगा. बाल्टी लेके भागो भैया, भागना पड़ेगा, isn't it? हाई रिस्क का मतलब कल से हमारा घर में पानी नहीं आएगा. That means not only one balti, you have to make assurance every day that it is working. You have to make sure that it works on a continuous basis. Assurance is very important because high risk means the margin of error is very less. So ladies and gentlemen, before I leave you, I'd like to leave you with a small statement. Failure is not when we fall down, but when we fail to get up. I don't know how many of you heard our Honorable Railway Minister making the poetic statement when he was presenting the railway budget. I'm not going to the details of railway budget, but he had presented one beautiful statement. I simply love that. I'm not able to get this onto my slide. I would definitely love to do that. He said, a bird on a tree has no fear of falling, not because the branch is solid, but because it has got faith in its wings. What we do is what is our confidence and what is our faith, and that's very important. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we want to assure you, please go ahead and use IT in all manner that you can think of. Please do that. Hum hai na, we will be able to save you. Don't worry. Thanks for your patience. And any questions you can ask, but there's no guarantee that I will be able to answer all of them. That's a different issue. And before I leave you, very happy New Year to all of you with effect from 1st January. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for such a interesting and lively speech. I would just like to inform that Dr. P.M. Nair, IPS, Director General of Police, National Disaster Response Force and Civil Defense Government of India is with us. I request Dr. Nair to kindly come on the dais and join the session. A big hand for Dr. Nair, please. Continuing with the session, I would now like to request Dr. H.P. Shukla, Director, National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, Gorakhpur, to kindly come and deliver his speech.
Before Mr. Dr. Shukla takes the dais, I think out of that low risk, medium risk and high risk, we are going to hit high risk because Srinath is planning to go back to office. So thank you, Srinath, for a great lecture. The field is yours. Dr. Shukla, yeah.
Distinguished speakers present on the dais, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Today's theme is the securing the nation in cyber security. The question comes, what we are going to secure the nation? As we have heard by additional secretary in the morning, there are the three components: physical, financial, intellectual property rights. How these three major components are being affected in cyber security, because we know that when we are going to use the IT, cyber word, as discussed that today's main e-governance main is the transparency. The stakeholders are at the remote locations situated. We are going to provide the services. What is the use? It is the ICT applications. The physical, when we talk of the infrastructures, we have to go for enhancement of the productivity. When we talk of the productivity enhancement, we have to go use the ICT applications. So if we analyze, we find that it is the IT applications which is going to play a major role for the securing the nation. Then, how it can be achieved? As we know, if we analyze the problems, just our earlier speakers in the different sessions has told that there are the attacks, there are the hackers, they are creating the problems. What is because this session is the innovation, what innovations we are going to do? NILIT has taken a lead role in developing the training environments in virtual mode. For development in the first phase during the year 2010 to 2012, they developed around 20 modules through which the stakeholders can be trained how information gathers, what type of the risks are involved, how they are to be countermeasures to be taken. Subsequently, with the success of those modules, testing, advanced level of the virtual training environment is being developed by NILIT Society at Gorakhpur. Where the question is not that what are the attacks being done, that we should get the solution, but like equipments, enhancement, that we have to think out that creativity, that what are the future problems. We have to go for modeling, either we have go to for the find out what a attacker is going to think. This is the major point of the concern, that our team members are looking after that, developing so that the people will be trained that the question, there is a additional secretary in the morning, that awareness at the grassroots level. So these systems being developed, being innovated by NILIT team members will facilitate awareness to the citizens. My colleague, Mr. Alok Tripathi, he will give you in detail that what are the developments works, innovation works is being done by the NILIT, and what has been done and what is planned to be taken up. With this, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. We have with us Mr. Nair, who is heading the National Disaster Response Force and Civil Defense. I think Srinath had thrown a slide where there are multiple government organizations which are working on cyber security. I think this organization is one of them, and I think we will have a different perspective on what they are doing in cyber security.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaskar. I apologize for being an intruder. I was supposed to be in the next session. Due apologies. But I had to catch up some urgent work somewhere. I had to move out of Delhi for some work, so they permitted me to come in between. Thank you for all of you, IT and others, for allowing me to speak on this occasion. Technological integration in disaster management internal security. That's my topic here. I was told that the distinguished members of the audience here have a lot to do with the business entrepreneurship and development. I thought let me make use of this forum for showing you some of the internal issues which affect our national security and disaster management, where many of you can join hands and actually take it forward. In that context, first we come to disaster response. We have 10 battalions of disaster management disaster response force across the country. And they are located in various places. They are doing a commendable work. Commendable work means in the disaster response, we not only do the response part, but we also do the prevention part. We make the villages and identify the disaster-prone areas, and then try to empower them, capacity building, and make them disaster resilient and prevent disasters. In the event of a disaster, the loss to be mitigated and reduced. This effort also we are doing. So some of the examples of what we did in the last 1 year, the data shows how many people have been benefited. It includes lots. Mostly we invest on children and women. Today being Women's Day is very important for us. We invest on women also. The Dubri in Assam went to a village. Every year the village gets ravished, floods. Went to another village, Boripada Padar in Odisha, Mahanadi banks. Every last 5 years, village goes underwater. What do? We go to the village, talk to villagers, and they say, okay, we want this, we want that. We said, okay, next year we'll give you boats, next year we'll give you medicine, next year we'll give you doctors, etc. All those human things are possible. They also wanted a particular place to stay, shelter. Network with the corporates like this, and somebody said, okay, I'll give 85 lakhs, 55 lakhs, we'll make some shelter there. I said, please go, shake hands with the BDO, and we try and network with the BDO or the development officer there and build up some shelters out there. A lot of commendable work we are doing across the country. And if any of you are interested, please mail to us. We'll be too happy to join hands with you. Challenges. First and foremost, we have gone to Japan too. Our officers, 46 our team, went to Japan to do an interesting job there to attend to the great tsunami and disaster, triple earthquake. And in that context, when we found a lot of challenges have come in our operations. One is a containerization. There are different types of tools and equipments we need to carry. But we still go by the kabadi type, किसी को बुला लिया, अच्छा ले आओ सामान कुछ बांधो इसको लगाओ कांटी लगाओ की लगाओ. That's not the way. Sophisticated equipments require sophisticated treatment for containerization. We are looking into that. That's one aspect. Second is a location finder. Persons in distress. A huge building collapses. We have the direction finder we have. Equipments will show that in this direction. It could be 20 meters to 2 or 2 kilometers. Where the man is suffering, somebody is dying, somebody is injured, we can't exactly locate. We are looking for location finders. It's very important for us. Once we get the exact location, sort of GPS location, it's not difficult for us. When the aircraft can fly in the air and have a GPS location of miles and miles away, why can't we have some sort of GPS location on ground too? I'm sure this ICT can help in that point too. Rescue in muddy and floody waters. Recently we had an incident in Uttarakhand on a Bolero Jeep when we went down with 7 people. Local police and administration, collector, everybody got into action and they rescued 3. 4 people and the Bolero Jeep was missing. They don't know what to do. One day, second day, third day they tried, they couldn't. The collector called me and said, can you help? I said, okay, my team is there, we'll send the team. Let's see what we can do. our NDRF boys went there, they put on their coats and etc., went into the river. The river, the beauty of the river is that it was completely in spate, muddy water, and the temperature was freezing. Imagine the freezing water, how they go into underneath. They did their best. One day, second day, nothing came out. All the villagers came, sir, aap kuch karo, and to kaun karega? So our boys got excited. He said, okay, now Jai Bajrang Bali karo now. They went into water, and then they could not locate anything. And some idea struck, okay, let's make a whirlpool of the boat. We have a lot of boats. Made a whirlpool out of the boats to see something coming up, and found the diesel coming up at a particular place, which is around 45 meters from the place where from the Bolero fell down. 45 meters down the line. Then, of course, they went underneath, took out the Bolero jeep and rescued 4 bodies. For the person the lady whose husband is dead, for her that's the God sent. So it's very important for her. Why I'm mentioning is that in such situations, we have no mechanism whatsoever. I don't know how information technology can help us in locating such people in distress. Dead body could be injured persons, vehicles, all sort of things in such places. We need your support if anybody can do that. So technological innovations can make a great difference in disaster response and disaster prevention. All these tracking movements of rescue personnel in muddy waters. When the fellows go underneath, I hold my breath because my boys are there. It's freezing cold, muddy water, they are snorkeling and the equipments are there, they have oxygen with them. Fair enough, but something happens, I'll come to know after 2-3 minutes because you can't have all the time rope with them. They have to move up and down. When they go for exercises, we hold on to them by the rope. When they go for action, you can't have a rope with them because it's not so easy. They have to be moving up and down. So in such situations, if any tracking system would be there, it will be a great boon to us. Then a unified communication system, vulnerability mapping linked with the forecast and prediction options. Can you believe, I was asking the agencies concerned here, I said, all right, Mahanadi gets flooded every year. Can you tell me the villages which will get flooded every year, or which have been getting flooded for the last 5 years? Let's go to all those villages and try to empower them, try to enrich them to face disasters. There is no data available. Data available says, okay, Mahanadi gets flooded, so many villages got flooded. That may not. This sort of prediction capability, based on the data we have, that's again going beyond that. It's a knowledge bank we have to develop. That's also required. I'm coming shortly to internal security issues because I was asked to speak based on my earlier experience in working in CRPF for a long time. There are so many challenges, technological, operational, personal, administrative, etc. These are the small pictures of the mines, IED, improvised explosive device, which the left-wing extremists use. Hard, pakka, concrete roads you can see. They dig out, or maybe under construction itself, all these mines are there. Can you believe it was 90 to 100 kilos weight explosive device underground? 2-3 trucks can go on one blast, that's it. Then the amount of calamity they cause, mine-protected vehicles, bullet-protected vehicles, all vehicles go into air and our men die. With this in view, it's a Lohardaga incident. There 139 blasts took place in one go. All were tied together and we lost around 11 men, totally 11 men, 44 fellows injured in an operation in the thick forests of Lohardaga. So the requirements of the internal security forces are exclusive, which many of you may not be aware. First and foremost, I would say the communication system. Mobile phone locator. Kishanji operation is an example. I don't know, you heard about Kishanji, an Naxal leader was in an encounter, he was finished. That entire operation, for 11 months there was wireless interception because they were using cell phones. After that, everything snapped. Nobody has got any intelligence. We have to send our men inside and get only human intelligence because the technological systems were not advanced to that level of intercepting these people. They were using a lot of cell phones, a lot of SIM cards, but mobile phone locators and surveillance systems failed. We do not have. Can you believe that? Portable VSAT terminal is something which we look forward to when we establish a camp inside a forest like Abu Zmad. 4,500 kilometers of area. Even the British, I believe, have not surveyed the area. When you go into Operation Naxal headquarters, what do? There's no communication system. Cell phones won't work. Nothing will work. Even wireless systems also have a frequency level which goes into the air. That the gray area, the wireless system also doesn't catch them. Then therefore we need satellite systems. Then a software-defined radio, satellite tracker for detecting movement of the troops. So trackers we have today, it's all important. Why not we manufacture here? It's not a rocket science. So we need to have some system by which our research-based systems can be developed into detecting movement of the troops by using trackers. Portable 3G, then direction finder, as I mentioned. Mobile BTS, base transceiver station, especially in the Abu Zmad area, Chhattisgarh area. Then optical devices, helmet mounted devices, GPS, RFID embedded in weapons. Can you believe the weapons are lost? If you have some system in a weapon, small minuscule system by which the weapons are lost. Somebody takes away a weapon, or somebody loots a weapon, or encounter they take away a weapon. We should be able to disentangle a weapon. We should be able to make some sort of trigger by which the weapon gets becomes useless. It's possible. It's not possible. We need to research and invent to do that. Bomb disposal is another. Robotic arms are required. Explosive tag-ins. Last one is very interesting. When the explosives are manufactured, for genuine purposes they do. But these explosives are taken, trucks and trucks and trucks of explosives go from Gomia factory to this place, or some factory, Ichapo factory to this side, are looted away by the miscreants and anti-nationals. No, it's a national security issue, major issue on national security. There are some tag-ins can be produced, at least you can trace them back. That's not possible, that's not being done today, so we need to have some sort of research into this issue of tag-ins. Information technology can be used in many ways. Firstly, the satellite imagery for whole of India with vector layers, different layers. Specialized training courses in such things. Advanced firing simulators for vehicles and UAV pilots simulators. For enhancing the competence of the security forces, communication equipments, UAVs are there. Bombay-based company, IIT youngsters have manufactured a small UAV which we are using, but it's only a sort of rudimentary thing, which is a lot of investment with ICT combination to that. It can make a tremendous impact in the security scenario of the country. A lot of law and order problems. Yesterday I was in Hyderabad. One doesn't know where the julus comes. Ahan julus nigla, wireless se bolna padta. Why can't you have some system by which saying, yes, there are 20 men congregated at a point, 30 men at this place, and the police can act. We don't have the system. So we need to have such system by which, and security of the country is involved. How the business shops close down, industries close down, and what for? Why can't we have a system by which we monitor the movement of the people or miscreants and take action accordingly? There's a lot to be done in integrating technology with the security systems. I will conclude here. The VHF I will leave. Optical device is very important. Night vision cameras we have, but they are not functional. The night vision device, mounted devices, see-through image wall, thermal images, body scanners and simulators. Grenade simulators are a rare commodity in this country. When you speak about the information technology, online GIS solution to the companies who are moving around, software-based encryption for digital information, and capacity for cyber forensics. We don't have cyber forensics. I must tell you again an anecdote here. When Kishanji operation took place, he had a laptop. Kishanji is Naxal leader, he had a laptop. Actually must be a storehouse of information. We were actually working on Kishanji's laptop for almost 3 weeks. And we land upon in a fellow who gets information about him. That's why we killed him. But laptop was our main target, to know where he is, what he is doing. We got the laptop, encounter, a bullet went through, AK-47 bullet went through the laptop. You can imagine what sort of laptop it is. We gave to all the best companies in the world, they could not do it. Finally, we have another agency who has come up here, and we gave it to them. I don't want to mention the name of the agency, a different agency, new brand of youngsters, technologically sophisticated fellows there. A young group of people in a particular agency, we gave it to them, and mind you, they brought out so much of literature, which even the intelligence agencies are surprised. How did you get this information from? Where did it come from? Entire plan of action which they have for the coming 1 year's time. Everything was in the computer. But that analysis of the computer we didn't have. The computer forensics capacity that particular agency had, because those children, youngsters, got education somewhere and they came here out of their own volition and they did that. It can't be all the time an individualized system. We need to have integrated, institutionalized mechanisms. There we need your support. I think I'll stop here. I was rushing through because I was told that you should stop in 7 minutes. I think I did that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nair. We have now someone from the field who is going to tell us about what kind of capacity building work is being done in the field level. May I invite Dr. Alok Tripathi and request him to finish it in 10 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests present on the dais. Now, I was fortunate enough to be present here at the inaugural session, and from the inaugural session to the last session itself, there was basic theme which was coming that there is need of capacity building for cyber security. There was here the presentation of Dr. Srinath also, and he also stressed that there is a need of capacity building. So why people are feeling that there is a need of capacity building, but not so many players are coming in information security or the cyber crime or forensic area for capacity building? Because if we go for the traditional IT environment, if we talk about capacity building, lot of players will come, everybody will come, and he will want to be the major player. But as per our experience, what we have built, this capacity building in IT security, cybercrime, or forensic is quite different from a traditional IT environment. For capacity building for a traditional IT environment, what we require? We require a IT infrastructure, we require people to train, we require software and tools, and then the trainer has to train the people on the technology. But when we talk of IT security or cybercrime or forensic area, there is major difference. Now, I will take example from our epic character that there are Ram in society and there are Ravan in society. The whole scenario in information security, cyber forensic or cybercrime is about this Ram and Ravan. Ram is a creative person who creates something, but Ravan is the destroyer, is the destructive element in the society. And when you are doing capacity building in IT security area, you have to tackle this Ravana also. You have to create an environment where you are able to destroy the environment in the same way as Ravan is doing. So it requires a lot of challenges. In a traditional environment, there is a trainer, trainees are there, PowerPoint slides are there, and people start training. They tell, now a lot of things are available on Google. Lot of latest technology are there, and you can train them people. There's no destroyer. You have not to show how the system is going destroyed. And suppose you have physical machines, you are working on physical machines, just you have to tell how to browse through steps and the steps are clear. But when you are going to teach information security, there's a quite different. You have to down the system on which you are working. That system should be stopped. And when the system is stopped, how you will teach the rest of things? How the people will perform hands-on and all those things after that when the system is destroyed? So that's why we have courses. Now, I am in the IT security area for 5 years. I have gone to major institutions. There are courses. People are running MTech, but there's a lack. What is the lack? People are not able to perform. People are not able to perform. People are not able to learn how the actual attacks are being done. There are no hands-on how to tackle the actual attacks, because on the physical machines it is not possible. So when we are going for capacity building in IT security or the cyber crime or forensics area, it requires infrastructure. Then I will call it research with the technology, and then creation of a scenario. It is not that without scenario, without actual, how the actual attack is going to happen if you are not teaching anybody what you are teaching in information security. Because I have talked about Ravan. Ravan was more capable. He was the brilliant fellow. He was all the capabilities. He was knowledge. Similar is hacker. As I have heard a speech from Behra sir. What he was telling? He was telling that Laskar is training camps. And Laskar is training people in that. What they are training? They are training on these attacks, how to shut down a critical infrastructure and like that. So hacker is not a layman. He is more intelligent than you. Now, Behra sir was also talking about Windows 8. Suppose a new operating system come. The users are not aware of the vulnerabilities, and a hacker came to know about what are the vulnerabilities present, and they start launching attack on that. Microsoft comes with the patches after that when the attack is launched. But hackers are able to get on that. So we must have a training environment where we are capable of handling all this aspect. And NILIT has done a research, and we are thankful to the Department of Electronics and Information Technology E-Security Division, who has found us capable to give us project to do capacity building for this. So we have done research on this, and the first capacity building project which we came out was the information security development with virtual training environment. And that, I have talked about the research with the technology. Why I was talking about research with the technology? Because we felt the same problem with physical environment. It is very difficult to teach the information security concepts in a physical environment. That's why we done research with the technology, and we find this virtual environment more feasible for that, where we can have a network, we can just discreate that network, we can allow users, trainees to just launch attack, and the network is degraded. But since it is a virtual environment, it's a non-destructive type of environment, and it just comes up, there's a user management administration environment where the network can be put up to use in a minute. So now just I will, so what are the features of this virtual training environment? The features of this virtual training environment, that there are hands-on lab environment, and as I have talked that the teaching of information security requires scenario. So we have scenario-based labs. We have done a lot of research, how the actual attacks are performed. And based on that, we have 20 modules, and every 20 module has a scenario. How the attacker is thinking, how the attacker performs the actual attack. And one thing which lacks in information security, I will point out that they only produce hackers. They don't tell the countermeasures. But our scenario environment has 3 scenarios. One is a total unsecure environment where attack is launched and attack is successful. Now we teach them to put up a countermeasure. And then when they put up countermeasure, the attack is launched and the attack is unsuccessful. But we tell them that hacker is more smarter than you. Then we teach that the hacker has deployed new technology and your previous countermeasure has failed. Now in the third environment, we teach the persons that this is the all possible countermeasures available with technology, and you have to put up this countermeasure, and now you launch the attack. And now you see how much the attack is successful. So this is the feature. So we have scenario based, and this is the architecture. We have 4 servers. 2 servers are deployed at this NILIT Delhi center. 2 servers are deployed at Gorakhpur center. Both are virtualized center. There's a load balancing facility. At Gorakhpur server, that simultaneously 40 users can work, and at the Delhi center also 40 users can work. This environment is available through internet, means you have to put up login name and password, and you are available with a network on which you have to perform attacks and learn. So this is the cloud environment. It is accessible through internet cloud, and this is the virtualized infrastructure which we are having at our NILIT Gorakhpur center and NILIT Chandigarh center. So this is the architecture, and I will say now this is a cloud environment. Now these are the modules available in this. Now we have also done enough research how an attack is performed. So when the attack is performed, the attacker does not just go and attack the system. First, he discovers the network, he gathers information about network, and the modules are designed according to that scenario, how a hacker attacks a system. So first we have network discovery and scanning. Then he has got access to the system, and now he got access, he captures the credentials, got access to the system, and after that, he destroys the system, and in the group C, we have the hardening and parameter security, all the parameters which the administrator do to prevent such types of attacks. So this was this testbed environment, and we have around 1,000 participants trained on this environment. And based on this capacity which we built, we again went to the Department of Electronics and Information Technology Division, and then we proposed a new model. What is this new model? Now we have a teaming exercise. Now, as Dr. Srinath was talking, that they have a cyber drill of kind of thing. I don't know how they are performing that cyber drill, but this is the same environment where there is a hacker, there is an attacker team, and there is a countermeasure team. Now, in the previous environment, there was static attack. Suppose somebody is performing attack, he performs the attack, and then after countermeasures are taken and the attack is performed. But here, there are real-time attacks. Attacks are going in a real-time environment. We have an attacker team attacks the network, and the attacks are going in a real-time environment. Now, in the real-time environment itself, the team who is defending, he has to design, first the team has to detect the attack. After detecting the attack, team has to design the countermeasures and stop the attack. How much the team is successful, that is provided to a feedback. That is provided to a feedback to the administrator, and after that the attack is stopped. So we have 7 exercises built on this, and I will see that there is a special feature. All the exercises are depending on the organizational network, IP hosting environment in this secure education network. So on that we have built. Now exercise 7 is a customized network. We are providing a free environment. You can just create a network. We are providing a attacker machine where all the attack vectors are there. Now you have to build your network and attack the system. So this is a customized network. You can do whatever you want. So this was advanced. Now we are going into the forensic area. In the forensic area, we have just got a capacity building project to set up a forensic lab for SFIO with a total outlay of 3.80 crores. Now we have a certification scheme also, that is 3 levels: certified system security analyst, certified system security professional, and certified system security certified computer forensic professional, certified information system security auditor, and certified system security solution designer. So that is a first certification scheme launched by a government organization. Then we have a capacity building in forensics at the J&K state also. So this is also a part of the DIT project. So a forensic lab is established, and this project come as a consequence of decision taken by the Parliamentary Consultative Committee on IT. And in this perspective, certain DIT and Government of India sanctioned a project on establishment of computer forensic lab and training facility in the Jammu and Kashmir state. And the total grant in aid allotted to project were 199.50 lakhs for the duration of 2 years. And with this, we have created a cyber forensics lab at Jammu and Srinagar. And this is the inauguration that was inaugurated by Honorable Minister of State, Mr. Sachin Pilot. Now, facilities built up in this lab. We have a capacity building in which we are training the law enforcement agencies and J&K police officers and Indian Army professionals. Now, we have a 2-level courses design. I will not go into the detail. And we have total trained about 160 persons in this. Now, we are also helping the J&K Police Department to investigate their cases using this facility. So we are also, J&K Police Department is also using this facility to handle their cases. Now, just I will go to quick review what we are the tools which we are present. So we have a true imager system. We have a cyber check suite. We have a network session analyzer. Now we have a forensic recovery and evidence device. This is a Fred server, write blockers, device seizure tool that is for forensic, for mobile forensics seizure, F response tool, and this is in case forensics for the forensic analysis. Now this is in case portable, and with this I finish with my presentation. One thing I will like to tell you one more thing, that we are also building a virtual training environment in this forensic area, because forensic area is a little typical thing, where we have to provide some training on the hardware devices for imaging and all those things. So we are building a mixed type of thing, where we are building a virtual training environment in forensics, and this capacity building to train the forensic professional. And this IOL center is building this virtual training environment in forensic. With this, I finish with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tripathi. I think that's a lot of work being done by NEELIT, not only in Delhi, but in the remotest of the field areas. We are now through with the speakers in the panel, and the floor is open for questions. I request you to identify the speaker to whom you want to ask question, and then raise any. I wish Srinath was here, because I think he raised a lot of issues and people might be having some questions on his presentation. But I'm sure amongst all of us here, there are a lot of experts, and I think some of the issues can be addressed. Do you have someone with a mic there? Yes, madam.
To participate your virtual training course, is there any specific qualification you require? Yeah, anybody, and what is the duration of that course?
We use the mic now.
We conduct generally 1 week workshop. Since it is available through cloud, so you can do at your own place itself.
Okay.
So there is a registration module there. You have to register that, and you have to pay the fee, requisite fee through demand draft, and then you can participate for the course. You can do at your own pace. There are 20 modules. If you are not able to finish within stipulated time, we extend the time also. And one thing is that you can come at our place also, where you can have a classroom training and perform simultaneously the modules.
Okay, thank you.
And we are not putting any specific criteria for that. If you are interested in IT security area, you are interested. Because now you see, there are a lot of hackers who are coming with not any basic qualification, but they are attacking the networks and like that. So if you are interested in IT security area, you want to perform the hands-on, and you want to see the real-time attacks, you can just go through this model.
So who will they contact if some organization wants to train 10, 20 people within?
Corporate module also. So on that the fixed charges are there, and the basic need is that we conduct at the organization also, and also.
So are you the contact person for organizing trainings in cyber security within NEELIT? And you are based in Delhi?
No, I am based at Gorakhpur.
Gorakhpur. But is there a person in Delhi, or are you the one? Okay, you are the one who handles cyber security training in NEELIT. Very good.
My another question to Mr. Nair, that is really this GIS environment is useful for your organization?
Of course, it is certainly useful. The point is, you have tried to some level, but we need to advance. My opening was to showcase that what is required. Much has been done behind that I don't want to speak on, but what I said was, trying to say my wish list, which is actually required. It can make a tremendous impact,
I saw someone this side, yeah. Mic, please, mic, someone. Who's carrying the mic?
Here.
Sir.
No, there is, the person is carrying it.
Actually, this is not my question, it's my thoughts. I have gone through the different knowledge sessions deliberated here. Just a question in mind, can it will be possible to make a compulsory cyber law education, or the law, the impact of law related to the computer or cyber in the education system from the schools and colleges? Every computer engineer or IT engineer who is working and dealing with it will be aware, or the person getting utilized of this will get aware. I think it will make a help to the society also.
It's a very good question. Let me see what Maharashtra is doing. Sir, would you like to answer? Are you doing something on bringing in a policy on educating people in cyber law? I have Secretary IT of Maharashtra, Rajesh Agarwal.
Sir, Mike.
See, though the Act is practically 12, 13 years old, the IT Act, the real application of it, the real use of it is quite low. In fact, only last week, I have passed a series of 13, 14 judgments on cyber frauds, credit card frauds, net banking frauds. And when I analyze the entire system, and I have actually come down quite harshly on the way the police investigations have gone in. The police in our country is very good at legwork, trying to go to various places, trying to catch the criminals in a physical fashion. But when it comes to real cyber investigations, cyber forensics, knowledge of cyber laws, there is a huge vacuum. And this knowledge of cyber laws, all of you must be aware of use of 66A, how it has been used, the Facebook posts, the blocking of IAPM sites, the way the government of India basically came into picture only after a lot of hue and cry over the social media. In the first instance, they did not appeal against the Indore court. So a lot of things. So lack of knowledge of cyber laws, and more than that, lack of real knowledge of the spirit behind those laws. People know cyber laws, they implement it, but they implement it in the wrong spirit. That is one. So second is now trying to train people on cyber laws. We are now in a very active touch with NASSCOM, DSCI, and others to train our police officers, to train our public prosecutors in applying the law properly and judiciously. We don't want cyber law to be applied left and right, actually. So knowledge of mere act actually may be counterproductive if the spirit behind the laws is not followed up. So those are my
Thank
points.
you. Thank you for giving the state perspective as to what Maharashtra is doing. In fact, a lot of initiatives are on in educating people about the cyber laws, but they all start after a certain level. Probably they have not reached the school level yet. But thinking from a education angle, I feel that we try to put too many things in the school curriculum, you know. The environment guy says that he has to be part of it. Someone else says he should have a lesson and something. So probably I think after a certain level, need-based cyber law education starts and people learn about it. People within the government have to learn about it, and we are making them learn through the capacity building efforts that we have taken up. You want to add something? Dr. Shukla is saying that it is you get a policy decision made that we recommend inclusion of cyber laws in schools. But I think it's a long shot. But within our organizations, if we do capacity building activities, I think that will be a major step. Next question, please. Yes.
Actually, I think we are discussing a very important issue because today Hindustan Times says 2025 we need 6 million IT professionals in the country. It's a full-page advertisement. So this is something has to be done when your word is virtual, and I believe this must be LMS or something like that, learning management system, you mentioned that. So it has to be campaigned. I think awareness campaign is one that Rajesh was telling. Many people do not know cyber law. If you say one person, that is Pawan Duggal. Pawan is say the last word. So that there should be many Pawans all over the country. Pawan is a practicing lawyer in Supreme Court. But I just wanted to mention Nair has left because there are handheld portable millimeter wave radars are available which can unearth below the surface, the under surface cables. Those are not very costly nowadays, millimeter wave. So the murky water, etc., if they procure one of the equipment, which is very common in foreign countries, when they try to map the underground cables, they have got millimeter wave radar which can penetrate up to 10 to 12 meters. I really do not know beyond 12 meters whether things have advanced or not. But even 10 years back, those is very common. But he has left. So
no, but I think his purpose was very good in the sense that he was giving his wish list. I think it is now time for the industry to respond to the
So
need.
there are already available millimeter wave radars which is used for the under earth. So water will be much easier than earth.
To present the mementos, may I please request Shri V.L. Kanta Rao, President and CEO, National E-Governance Division, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, to first present the memento to Dr. H.P. Shukla, Director, NIELIT, Gorakhpur. Thank you, Dr. Shukla. And to Dr. Alok Tripathi, Joint Director, National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, NILIT. And now I request Dr. H.P. Shukla to present a memento to our session chair, Shri V.L. Kanta Rao. It's been a real interactive session, and the all credit goes to our session chair for making it so interactive and so interesting.